Hey, it looks like we are actually live on LinkedIn now. So, hey, I'm Brent Leary.
I can't hear you now.
That's not good because I can hear you. All right, folks.
Here we go.
Can anybody hear us?
Hold
This
on.
is a rough start.
I know what it is. I'm coming. We'll have to do it again. Keep the link. I'm gonna have to leave.
Oh, you got to come back. Okay, well, I guess it's just me doing the CRM players thing. Okay. I'm Brent Leary. We're having some technical issues out of the gate here for this week's CRM players. Mr. Paul Greenberg, he will be back in a minute or so. He might have to do something with his router or whatever it is. But anyway, we will be here. We got a really interesting show ahead of you. We got a really interesting guest, Russ Mayfield, who, if anybody knows anything about Enterprise 2.0 or social text, yeah, I mean, he was the man. And now he is working with Zoom and helping them build out their marketplace, the Zoom app marketplace. He's the product lead for integration. So he'll be with us a little later on, and hopefully Paul Greenberg will be with us a little later on. Thank you, Sven, for letting me know that Periscope is up. You can now watch us on LinkedIn. I think we got that straightened out. A lot of gremlins this week. I don't know what's going on here with the technology, but we'll get it worked out. We'll get it straight because we have a pretty big update on the BYOB. I've got a video that we can play. We got a one of the, I think it might be the last, if not one of the last, of the video promos that we have. I'm trying to wait for Paul to come before I play that, because I just like to, we've already seen it, but it's always good to get both of our expressions when we're watching this thing. And in the meantime, I guess, yeah, LinkedIn is up. All right, that's great. Thank you, Thomas. All right, so I guess maybe in the meantime, while I'm on the lookout, I'm definitely looking out for Mr. PG to see whenever he comes back, we can jump right into it. But in the meantime, I do have something I wanted to share because there was some good stuff here. Actually, literally just got this. Oh, all right, there he is. I tap danced long enough, and here he is. Can you hear me?
Still nothing.
He's well, okay, that's not good. All right.
Whatever we just did before, lock something somewhere.
We can hear you. Everybody can hear you.
I can read your lips.
We can hear you.
No, that I actually read those lips. I know you can hear me. I just can't hear you.
Can't hear. Okay.
Well, let me try something else. I'll try to listen to you somewhere else. Hold on a minute.
All right. Try to listen to me somewhere else. I'm going to play the Oracle video promo for BYOB. So while he's fiddling around there, I'm going to fiddle around with this. And this is, I think, the last, like I said, it's either, if not the last, one of the last. But this one is from Oracle. The band is called the CX Pistols. I like the name right there. So let me go ahead and get this ready.
Because I literally can't hear a word of you, so.
Oh, the CX Pistols, man, they meant everything. I mean, when I first heard them, just blew my mind. It was like a mix between Bob Marley, Grand Funk Railroad, and maybe Enya.
What was your favorite CX Pistols show?
Oh, well, that's got to be Red Rocks, 1983, when they were opening for Iggy and the Stooges. Or maybe it was when they were playing with Paul Anka at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. Or you know what? Might have been one of the shows in the lean years when they were playing birthday parties and bar mitzvahs back in the 90s, man. Oh.
Stig, when you heard the CX Pistols were reuniting for the CRM Playaz BYOB contest, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, first of all, they haven't paid me since for all the work I did from 1991 to 98. None of it. I want my money, guys. Second, though, I was like, who are the CRM players? I mean, never heard of these guys. They must be huge if they managed to get the band back together.
Named after my mother. My old man is another. Child's grown old.
If you could say one thing to the band or the fans of the band now, what would it be?
Well, to the band, guys, I want to know why you left me in Joshua Tree National Park. You just ditched me. That wasn't cool. But to the fans out there and to the new fans, get ready to see the greatest musical experience you'll ever encounter and vote for the CX Pistols below. Oh, the CX Pistols, man, they meant everything. I mean, when I first heard them, just blew my mind. It was like a mix between Bob.
Wait a minute. These guys are like going on. Hold on a second. Hey, we're getting ready to play again. Jeez. All right. Let me see if we got our buddy back. All right, here we go. Here's the big test.
Oh, it'll work.
Can you hear us?
I do. I know exactly what I had to do. I figured it out.
Yeah, it would have worked at first if it wasn't for those. You know, what do they say on Scooby Doo? If it wasn't for those something kids, you know, you don't remember that? It would. No, the plan would have succeeded if it wasn't for those meddling kids. That's it.
Meddling kids. Yeah.
Yeah. You would have been able to hear us if it wasn't for meddling kids. I don't know.
I guess we need to start with the signature then, man.
Okay, I think we got it all worked out. I feel good about this. And our guest, I see our guest is in the green room.
Oh, even better.
So we're
note.
We're all set. All right. So before we bring him on, though,
no, wait. We really need to introduce it. We didn't really.
Oh, we didn't do the real. Okay.
That we can't fail. We've had 12 straight years of it, so
all right.
Can't blow it now.
Here we go. Act like you never heard the very beginning of this show.
Right.
Now, here it is. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
Yeah, okay, we're the CRM players. I just had to check. You had to make sure we're good.
And the rest of it.
I don't even know what the rest of it is at this point. Oh, I know what the rest of it is tonight. Thursday night football. Rams are playing the Patriots. Where is Bob? I hope Bob Fogel. I hope he's out there. I hope he's listening. I want to talk a little smack, but I better not because
yeah.
All right. Anyway, so before we bring on our guest, did you want to do a little bit of a BYOB update?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's actually coming along. I mean, so right now we're in the first phase, right? We're in the judging phase, and we have a 5-judge panel, of which two of the two guys just commenting are on the fifth judge. The fifth judge consists of 40 happy hour people who volunteered to look at all the songs and vote, and then the votes are coming in, and it's a tight race. That's all I'm going to say. But the votes are coming in by that closes on Saturday by 9 p.m. And then we go to the popular vote on starting Monday. The polls are up. The only thing left to do will be to upload the videos to the band pages. And then the polls will open at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, and anyone can vote who wants to. We're going to see some stuff coming from mycustomer.com. We'll see some things coming from the Direct Marketing Association of New York and a couple of their sites, right? We're going to see some things like that, starting to promote the popular vote. But it's been amazing. And the other thing, and the last thing is next was it Wednesday and Thursday, the 16th and the 17th, from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 per day. It's a 2x2 event. We're going to have the bands on. We're going to play all 30 videos, and each band will play its 3, and then, we'll see each 3 music video, and then we're going to interview band members for 2 hours per day over 2 days. And we've got a hell of a panel of moderators coming on to handle that interviews, and the bands are all excited about it. So There's stuff to do, right? And yes, Thomas, go to work, right? That's it. But it's exciting. I mean, it's mind blowing actually, and the quality of the work that these bands did was off the charts. I mean, I expected good, I did, but not the level we're getting is pro, not just good.
And that's not hyperbole either. I mean, that's
No.
There's some stuff in there. I was like, damn, didn't I see that on MTV like when they were playing music videos? That was a long time ago, by the way.
That was 83 when Jeff Workow met the bands.
Yeah, it's like video killed the radio star, and then some of that kind of stuff.
Weirdly, I was literally watching a cover of that song today.
I'm just showing every bit of my age by talking about this right now, you know. So anyway, one last thing. I literally just got this today. So Adobe put out their earnings, and similar to like Salesforce, it was blowout. Everybody's like, yeah, they did it up. So I just wanted to go over a couple of quick things. You know, these numbers are really, I mean, I'm not going to get into them, but you can see there's serious improvement, but serious growth going on here. But
wow,
what I was looking at, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I was looking at they do these slides for their total addressable markets for each of their, you know, the businesses that they're into. So here is the total addressable market for the marketing cloud. That's like their biggest one. I mean, that's their
for the creative cloud.
Yeah, for the creative cloud. So look how, I mean, that's going to be a $41 billion market in it's like, yeah, that's huge. And of course they kind of run that market at the moment.
Yeah, they own it. But of course, you know, but that one too is where I think we're going to see a lot of the largest growth, and also efforts being made by the other major companies who are not normally there, because ultimately, you know, we're seeing that by their acquisition of video platforms and the use of video platforms. You know, we're seeing it in a lot of different ways, but the creative aspects of this become pretty much, you know, to the now world famous Don Sherman, CTO of Pega quote, we had to move from theatrical to cinematic. And when you're moving to cinematic, you're moving to Creative Cloud and things like that.
Yeah, so, yeah, no. But here's the interesting thing. Okay, keep that in mind. So that was 41 billion. All right. So then they talk about the addressable market for the cloud document stuff. That's not. I mean, that's a pretty significant piece of the puzzle too. I mean, that's it's not 31 or 41 billion, but it's still that's a pretty significant addressable market that they're playing in with this documents cloud stuff. All right, now I wanted to put that up because you know what the last one is, the Experience Cloud.
Yeah.
Look at the total addressable market for this.
What? I actually don't believe that, to tell you the truth.
I think it's all in how you define, you know, their Experience Cloud and what their definition of what their total addressable market is. But that blows away content. I mean, that was. It's twice it's more than twice what they're saying.
Yeah, but look at, you know what? I mean, to your point, I guess it is definitions, because what they're defining, the smallest piece that you'll notice there is the customer journey management piece. But look what they have under customer journey management, marketing. That has nothing to do with customer journey management. There isn't a single one of those 4 criteria that has a thing to do with journey management, other than, you know, associate integrated with it.
But it's funny though. Look at content and commerce, 44 billion. That's about the same size as the Creative Cloud total addressable market was.
And the CRM market.
So it's content and content, really. It's driving this. And commerce, it's content and commerce. They can almost say that their Creative Cloud could fit into the content and commerce category itself and create its own little total addressable market.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
It's fascinating, although I'd really like to know how they even, you know, I mean, to be honest, I always have a bit of a problem with that kind of thing anyway. I mean, as much as I actually generally do trust Gartner's numbers, you know, and I actually, just only because over time they've tended to be modestly accurate, right, which is hard to do. I always wonder how someone can say, well, the forecast for the market's going to be, you know, like 37.9 billion. How the hell do they know that? How do they possibly know that? It's like how many cents are at the end of that one, right? So, right. Or 85 billion. Where did the numbers come from?
I just beg to differ because I thought it was going to be 39.8. And not
I know.
9.
Well, proves Gartner's wrong again, right? So, right. I don't know. Numbers like this just they're surprising.
They're really interesting. Yeah.
But they're beyond interesting to me.
The focus on content and commerce, though, I think that's where it all is right now. At least that's bringing them together. All right. So, and then just real quick, they're over 3 billion annually now for Creative Cloud.
Nah, that doesn't surprise me.
For Experience Cloud overall,
and that doesn't surprise me either. I mean, ultimately, they have a lot of good products there, right? I mean, they really do. And they were the leaders in the B2C side forever. And now they have Marketo, which is highly successful. And that's, I'm sure, part of their FY 2020 numbers there.
And Magento was underneath that too. So,
yeah. So, between all of those, I'm literally not surprised at their success. I'm skeptical of the number. I'm not surprised, but I'm not a market sizer either. So maybe I'm completely wrong.
Wait a minute. You're not a market sizer? I mean,
nope. Don't do it. I know most people just assume it of me because I look like one.
Like you look like a market sizer, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Look, got glasses, kind of half shaved, the whole thing. Got the whole look. Market
now size. This is a shout out to Adobe. You remember like everybody was dropping all the news during Dreamforce week, like trying to Bigfoot Dreamforce, and then that $27.7 billion thing happened, and everybody forgot about everything else. I will say this about Adobe. They were kind of stealthily. Every day I was getting an email giving me this data on what was going on with the holiday shopping season, like daily updates. And then right before the show, they put this. I got another email about this, about kind of the finalizing the actual data around what all was done by way of shopping online during that Black Friday, that whole week between Black Friday and then the other Friday with Cyber Monday squashed in between. So I love what they're doing with how they're delivering these insights, and the more transactions that become digital, the more that they're able to turn this stuff around and be so quick and I guess more accurate with what we're seeing. I just find that to be really cool. And I think that's the way that's kind of giving us an eye to the future, because as more things transition, more people buy stuff through mobile devices and other digital devices, this data becomes, we get it quick. I mean, we're starting to get Amazon. Remember how Amazon was able to give us all that information about what happened on Prime days? Now we're seeing this is like Prime Day every day kind of analytics going on here. I just think it was really amazing.
I will say one thing. I actually, I know one thing that I've seen in a lot of these research pieces is that there's been a huge jump in electronics. And I honestly think that's just due to you and me spending all that money on this. Like, we drove it up at least 5% ourselves from our rabbit holes.
Now, all right. So I want to get this out of the way, because now we can really get into some interesting stuff and bring on our guests and talk about the one thing that everybody is doing besides buying stuff online is doing all these video conferences and doing these video events. And with us today, representing
the man,
there he is. I don't even think he remembers speaking to me like 12 years ago on my radio show based in Atlanta. Russ Mayfield. Oh, if you say you do, I'm going to just say thank you. And but thank you for joining us, man. This is great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Brent. It's great to see you, Paul.
Let me ask you something, Russ. I mean, look, of course we want to talk about Zoom, but there's one other thing that I want to talk about. Well, both of us want to, which is you. I mean, you're like a pioneer. It's not like, there's this guy from Zoom and we really want to talk about Zoom only. You're a pioneer. Look, you one of the first enterprise social technology in the universe. I think it was, if I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, the very first even idea of a wiki was from social text back in the day. You founded, created it. You drove a lot of the knowledge management industry. It was pretty much thanks to you. It even existed as an industry to begin with. So why don't you take people a little bit through like your history, because it's an amazing one. And I always found you to be kind of the quiet major influencer, because you don't really put yourself out there much, but everyone knows who you are.
Well, I'm
like
quieter now. I'm quieter now, and I've worked on my humility, right? But I don't know. So I'm originally from Palo Alto. I started off in like politics and nonprofit work when I was young, and then started when I was in Eastern Europe. Started as an entrepreneur, right? And started an ISP and a web design company over there. During the big bubble, I worked on a B2B exchange trading telecom capacity, which is an interesting place to be in a moment of time. We had $1 billion market cap and like only $60,000 in revenue, and our top customers were Enron, WorldCom, and Tyco. It all went up and it all went down, and it was a really interesting learning experience, right? But Paul, like we all met back in the days of kind of enterprise 2.0, web 2.0.
Yeah.
I think all of that just started where I just got lucky to be in the right time of kind of finding an emerging community. And, no, I didn't invent the wiki. That's like Ward Cunningham. And but what we did was at the time we said we were users of these social tools that were emerging on the web. And, it's like early bloggers and so forth. And we just found that as a different way to work and a different way to communicate. And it seemed like a natural that those things that are first emerged for consumer use should be adapted for use in the enterprise. So we made the first enterprise wiki, and kind of, I think, helped start this different wave of social collaboration, of which Zoom, of which Slack, of other things right now are kind of part of that same lineage in a lot of ways. But, I've been an entrepreneur mostly, starting companies, great, wonderful experience writing the SlideShare experience all the way through it, working at LinkedIn, and just went through doing a collaboration software for product managers. And but now I'm doing one of the more exciting things. It's different for me working it from this side, but kind of opening up a platform of opportunity for Zoom is at the kind of this wonderful moment where it's like we've had this shift in behavior, right? And I think behavior shifts are more important than platform shifts. So everybody's using Zoom. We're using it for, we use it for work. We use it, the healthcare system, the education system is running on it. And it's the way that, friends and family are staying together during the holidays and more, right? And so that behavior shift will matter not just for now, but as we return back to the hybrid environment, we're going to carry some of that behavior with us. The other opportunity, just to keep rambling. So at Zoomtopia, I announced, or we launched Zoom Apps. So Zoom Apps is bringing apps into the Zoom experience. It's an opportunity for you to enrich the way that your meeting experience works. On the work side, it's much more about helping support meeting workflow. So what occurs before, during, and after. And we launched with 35 launch partners. There's a much larger group we're working with now. And it's all a bunch of best of breed, it's a weird mix of best of breed collaboration tools like, Box and Asana and so forth. As well as even some consumer examples that you wouldn't expect, like Cameo, and some, education ones like Kahoot, for example. Some of the brands that some of them not. But the interesting part to me right now is we kind of step back and we said, okay, Zoom had a crazy year, right? A lot of this predates me, where they went from 10 million to 300 million meeting participants a day. And to go through scaling that, to meet the needs in the pandemic. And then also then to put this decided focus on security, freezing all features, have the company 100% focus on that, to the point where now we're doing things with security at scale no one else has done. There's obviously been like wonderful business results, right? I'll leave that to Brent to walk through, another investor relations deck later, watch his mind blow. But but what's interesting is we're now at this moment where with Zoom, where it's not just that we've kind of scaled up and become essential, but it's this shift from killer app to platform, right? We're representative of this. There's other things like a new fully customizable SDK, brings video, voice as a service, other things into other apps. There's the launch of the On Zoom marketplace for services. Like if you want a fitness class or something like that, you can go discover one, sign up, participate. But for this, what we're doing, just step back for a second, then I'll stop talking. Really what it was is from somebody who's built startups to try to ride other platform opportunities. The thing that we have here is what I always wanted, right? Which is, number one, a platform that aids distribution, right? So what we've done is to actually put it so you have an app store. I wish I could illustrate this in this cast. We put an app store in the Zoom client, the place that people spend their time and attention. And number two, we've enabled it so you can use an app and then, let's say, screen share it with one click. So you kind of have that word of mouth experience, which will be very different for activating users, adopting applications in the context of a conversation. And then number three, we've really tuned it so these apps can gain viral distribution, both in the meeting with other participants, but then also through Zoom chat and its own kind of social graph, right? So designing with distribution in mind, but then also the Zoom apps themselves are essentially web apps, they're web views. So it's a very fast, flexible way for a developer to build and keep iterating, which doesn't have too much in the way of constraints, right? So the response for this has been amazing. There are companies that are starting just to go after building something native on this platform. Next quarter is the time when we're going to open it up for developers and also ship apps for people to use. So we still have a lot to build, but it's a pretty amazing, fun thing to work on.
So let me look. I mean, several years ago, like in 2008, Brent, me, a few others were pushing really hard on the idea of the next phase for CRM, or now it's CRM, CXC, customer engagement. Back then was the integration with social, and in fact, the term social CRM was basically was not a permanent term. It was just meant to be a differentiator between traditional and that kind of new level of integration.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the phase that all the customer-facing capabilities need, and even some of the back office side too, is on the collaboration side, is the integration with communications platforms like Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and a lot of companies understand it. Companies like Oracle are obviously like buying in big time on that, and Zoom is buying in big time on Oracle's, IaaS. But if you take that and you take what you just said, so that you have the apps,
mm-hmm.
and you also have what is, let's say, approximately microservices, meaning
mm-hmm.
service-specific capabilities,
mm-hmm.
and microservices also being part of a bigger platform picture.
Yeah.
In the fairly immediate future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Zoom seems to fit almost dead center for that.
Yeah.
I mean, which is even given where you are now,
mm-hmm.
will mean even more and scale even considerably more later. I mean, I don't know what Skype was at its optimal, or its maximum rather, when it came to how many people were using it. It was well over 1 billion, I'm sure. But but you guys actually can. I mean, Skype's pretty much gone away, but you can pretty much exceed that, I think, given what you're doing. So how's the company?
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to the app side, how's the company looking at the big picture, the really big picture?
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is in terms of the big picture. First of all, you have to understand not everybody knows Zoom for meetings, right? We solved a very hard product problem to create the experience that everyone uses today. There's also Zoom Phone with full-on PBX in the cloud and voice as a service. There's also Zoom Chat, which is a lot more robust than you'd expect, right? There's also Zoom Rooms for devices and things like that. But like I see a lot of the future, even in the way that like Zoom as a company is operating, using these tools, of course, stitched together with their underlying CRM. But it's like, an SDR that's using Zoom Phone to engage with a rep, engage with a prospect, escalated into the thing that I think makes it really different, which is in a meeting, right? Where a meeting, you have a different kind of deep engagement than kind of the engagement you get with other collaboration communication approaches. That then results in contact requests have been exchanged, and there's an ongoing chat that's going on that can get escalated into voice and video at any time, right? And I think what's interesting is watching these Zoom app developers from the CRM side kind of converge this opportunity. And it's like some old language we used to use, right? There's these systems of record out there that drive all of our processes, right? And process is great. Clay Shirky had a funny old quote, which I always keep in mind. Business process is an embedded reaction to prior stupidity. But you can have, process, but then something goes wrong, right? When something goes wrong, that means there's been a change in the environment. The process is out of date. It doesn't fit it, right? So that's that moment where you kind of escalate with an exception. You find the right group to get together, focus on let's solve the problem, but then also document the learning, because we want to be able to learn from how the environment's changed, right? So just generally with systems of record, the way that it ties in for a system of engagement like Zoom, to be able to do this kind of exception handling and continuous innovation, or like this example I wasn't illustrating as well as I could, let's say in a sales cycle, a sales motion, the way that you're coupling that meeting workflow with the sales process, right? And engaging people in a different way than you were before. And having that tightly coupled with not tightly, coupled with the system of record, I think you're going to end up seeing, this nice convergence of the two, right? And that Zoom apps will help enable that, right? But the one other part is, I think what's really amazing about video, not long ago, I was certain that the center of what collaboration was chat, right? And in fact, like back in the social text days, we made a group messaging client. It was more like a Yammer at the time, that generation. And it had bots. It like predated a bunch of things that Slack ended up doing, right? So I saw the level of kind of engagement that you would get from having a layer of chat, and really thought of that as the centerpiece. But now, because of the way that COVID has shown us something, the center to me is much more on video. I'm not saying that just because it's part of why I joined Zoom. I'm not just saying that because I'm at Zoom, right? And so it becomes this different kind of where you put the deep engagement moment at the centerpiece of what your collaboration strategy is, of the way your system of record works with your system of collaboration. And that organizes things in a much better way, right? So I'm sorry, I've rambled again, but
no, that's great.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, could you give us some examples of some of the apps that your partners are putting out there, and what issues are they addressing mostly?
Yeah. Generally, they're about kind of group productivity, personal productivity, and as kind of in terms of collaboration, right? So you could be using, let's see, in personal productivity, like pitch.com, which is kind of a collaborative PowerPoint. It's pretty interesting. Or like a smart sheet as, low code plus spreadsheet alternative, right? You could Woven as kind of a superhuman for email. Woven as a superhuman for calendaring, right? All in kind of personal productivity. In terms of collaboration, I mean, it's the best of breed folks, like everybody from Box, Dropbox, Slack, Asana, Rike. Most of the players at any best of breed shop would be stringing together to use for collaboration, right? Heavier systems of record like HubSpot or Salesforce, et cetera, right? And then you get into the fun stuff like Xer, which is a supporting exercise studios to be able to do remote classes, and that you participate in Zoom, and they're using AI to be able to detect like how many jumping jacks you're doing, and then show you in the Zoom app your progress bar as you're
smart
calling at you to do more.
That's cool.
I think actually it'll be really interesting to see the more there will be consumer-like examples that'll trend towards gaming, right? Sure. Which are going to be interesting. A lot of kind of interesting AR, VR examples. like Lumi Live, for example, that lets you change your, display an avatar of yourself if you're having like the worst hair day or something like that.
Yeah, I have that all the time.
Yeah. And yeah, but so it really is like, it's amazing the creativity of the group, right? And in the end, these are all just apps that need to connect with people. And this is just the channel to do it.
How are you handling, I mean, Zoom ultimately is let's call it, I'm using this sort of generally, but a video communications platform, one way or the other, right? And so here's an interesting use case. When Brent and I and others were at Ray Wong's, CCE conference, he was trying to reproduce an event like, environment. And one aspect of it, which is really important to events, is hallway conversations, right? They are. I mean, let's face it, we're socializing, right? Look at that. You got somebody already using the app. That is awesome. So they use this thing called, I don't know if you're aware of it. It was originally called Yo Tribe. Now it's called Wonder, right? And basically it's a gigantic, effectively you're in a hallway. I mean, it's just kind of alpha-y in terms of, there's a lot of bugs, missing a lot of things. But the one thing that was really interesting, you'd see, let's say 120 people in a hallway, and they were just little avatars of some kind. And then you could take yours and drop it on someone else, and it would open up a video conversation immediately. And then someone else could come in while you're having this video conversation, drop it on the avatar, and they would join it, and so on and so forth. And it actually did recreate a hallway environment. I mean, it lacked security, so you couldn't basically say, sorry, this is a conversation you're not supposed to be in. You couldn't do things like that. Or, they had what they call rooms, but they were really just boxes with a name. There was nothing about the room that was secure. I mean, there was nothing distinguishing it other than its name, right? And you went and stood there, right? So basically another spot to spend. But the concept is really important, actually, because it's casual, conversational. Like we use Zoom for a lot also, and I use, my account we use for our CRM Playaz happy hours, and they're really effective for that kind of thing. But this is a whole different level of conversation. It also goes to the potential to scale. Are you guys thinking because ultimately people are using Zoom partially for events, but it's not an events platform, really. Are you looking at that?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, our webinar product is used that way.
Sure.
And there are people that will enable. I just talked to a nonprofit that's about to host a big event in San Jose. They're trying to do it virtually for the same thing. And their questions were about how do I create that happy hour space or whatever it may be. We all used to go to way too many conferences. We know the best part of it, a conference, is the hallway conversation.
Yeah.
That's why we really come anyway. There's whole like event formats like open space methodology that we used at Bar Camp, which I hand in help fostering back in the day, which was how do I design an event experience for the hallway conversation to take effect. So I'm a fan of like social architecture and fluid social spaces. People are using Zoom to create that. It is something that is part of what we do. It's something that we spend a lot of time actually thinking about. And I think but one part I could share is like within the Zoom apps, there's a number of them that aren't part of the initial launch that are gearing up, that are trying to have new takes on facilitation, on loose social spaces, right? On the different games in which people would socially interact, whether that be towards a business goal or an agenda, or whether it's not, right? Because like one of the hard parts, like I'm in Northern California, we're in 100% net lockdown right now, right? There's no social interaction unless it's something like this, right?
Yeah.
And so I just hope that some of this stuff gets out at the time when it's most important. But I think also like as we return to hybrid, like let's put it this way, the water cooler in the office is going to have a virtual representation of the water cooler, right? Because you're going to have 30, 40, 50% of the team that was in the office will be in the office at a given day, right? And everyone else is going to be remote and working from anywhere and whatever. so it shifts from like back in the day when we were doing collaboration software, using the more primitive tools like Skype, but then, trying to screen share, meeting notes in a wiki and stuff like that. It was always that you had that one person who was remote, right? Or that one or two. And it was like somebody needed to remind people that person was on the screen or was a part of that equation is going to flip, right? It's going to be remote first in your thinking and your social interaction, right? In meetings and in social interaction, there'll be more people with you that are not with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Fantastic.
Can I just ask you, kind of going on a little different direction? Since you were there at the very beginning of all this stuff, what's your impression about where we are with it today? I mean, with you have social networks that have 2 billion active users a month.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all sorts of things going on with different. You got TikTok. I mean, you've got Twitch. You've got like a variety of these different things that were not there when you got started with social text. Are you surprised at where we are today? Did you think we would be further along? Did you see we would be seeing different things than we're seeing today? What's your thinking when you look back?
Yeah, I think on the collaboration, enterprise collaboration side of things, we're where we should be. And actually what happened was, we had years accelerated into months and, things that you could hope for, expect, right? Like, the progress and the quality of video communications you could expect, but then all of a sudden the adoption and then the behavior change, right? You could not have anticipated. On the consumer side, in a way, it's the same thing. You could have projected a lot in the way of the technology and what could be intentionally designed, but you couldn't, a lot of people didn't do a good enough job thinking about the unintentional use, right? And how it practically destroyed democracy and gave rise to demagogues and all kinds of, stuff. And I also think that a lot of the folks who were involved in that, and, like Silicon Valley as a construct is just a set of, it's just learning over time attached to a marketing function, right? And lessons got learned, which gives a lot of hope for what the next generation would be, right? So there's a lot more in the way of ethical considerations of understanding how a product will be used beyond its intentions, and kind of the responsibility, at least to avoid crisis PR, right? I think that's been baked in. And I think the next generation of entrepreneurs get that in ways that, when I was younger and hungrier, I could have been thinking it through a little bit more, right?
I think you did it all right.
Yeah.
I got a lot to do still. So, yeah.
You're still an entrepreneur at heart. So,
Yeah. So what are the kind of challenges that you are interested in? You say you got a lot to do. Tell us, what are the things out there that you want to do?
Well, things like within Zoom apps, what like my current obsession at this moment is, how do I enable a platform that allows a lot of creativity from the apps to be able to produce all kinds of things, but do so in a way where I'm really kind of maintaining an environment of trust between users when it comes to their data, when it comes to the ways that they would want to express their identities in different groups. I think a lot of it also is that for me right now, there's this crazy urgency, right, of trying to get this out and get this scaled and stuff like that. I have a lot of fun because I'm, talking to a ton of startups, but also large companies, but, seeing the creativity of like little tiny groups, focus on some interesting problems. Right. And then I just think, what's kind of the thing that I'm waiting for and kind of preparing for is this moment where it's the return to hybrid, and what is that world, right? And I definitely know that Zoom's going to play a really important role in it. It was important for me to be in a place, my dance card was empty enough, right? Or, it's kind of like the pandemic happened, the music started, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is that moment for collaboration software. Where do I go for the biggest impact, right? And And I think, what'll be interesting to see is, I just really hope actually, like, we could look back on the worst year in history for what these positives are, about ways that, like, I got the gift of being able to spend some full-time involvement with a nonprofit organization called Frontline Foods, which ramped up like in the most crazy, like, ultra scaling exercise you've ever heard of. It's now part of World Central Kitchen. Like, the people there were so amazing in the way they brought together, just building tech and operations super quick to have, 700 people in a month with 50 chapters all around the nation, taking donations, having 100% go to restaurants, and then providing those meals to frontline healthcare workers. And to be able to be part of that response was like the most fulfilling thing. And, for most people to look back on this year and to say, well, we made it through what could have been the worst election. And we made it through, although at a cost, this health crisis. But there were moments, right, where people got to spend more time with their families and learn new things that they didn't have time for, or learn to work in ways that are not so much about showing up in a place, but about the outputs, right? And so I hope, like, as we're going to wrap up the year soon, we can find the positives in that. And then, like, next year is going to be amazing, comparatively at least,
Yeah. Well, so to that end, actually, and there's another whole direction, obviously, for Zoom beyond or not beyond, in addition to business, which is just I call it the ultra personal, meaning, look, I mean, to your point, you're locked down in California. I know sometime today, Governor Northam here in Virginia is going to announce a whole bunch of new restrictions, and I don't know what they are, but we're doubling our rate. Right now, we're up to like 4,500 cases a day of COVID, where our normal rate had been about 500, right? So it's the post-Thanksgiving, didn't listen, here we go, right? So then something very interesting happens, because, over the last decade plus, we've all been seeing the rise of virtual communities, and they've become part of the fabric, really. I mean, there's lots of them, and they're active, and, they represent communities of interest, communities of principle, whatever they are, but there are different types of communities out there that are very active and happening. But we also actually physically live in neighborhoods. And what we're looking at is communities becoming neighborhoods, right? Again, even with hybrid, this time I'm communicating with my neighbors, so to speak, via Zoom or something else like that, or friends, or my neighborhood expands to a whole network of my friends who actually don't live in my neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood, and I'm deliberately distinguishing it from a community, because it's a network of human beings living together, doing personal things. Mm-hmm. Like, how many times have you read something about people, people who normally met every week on Friday for wine, drinking wine together over Zoom, or, on a more sad side, attending a funeral via Zoom, or, these kind of things are going on all the time. And they're just normal, personal, daily, activities. Yeah. That's a whole area that is sort of, it's known, but not explored. I mean, how's Zoom looking at that? And are any of the apps being developed for those kind of things? Fitness classes, I'm still viewing as sort of halfway between that and business, but I'm talking about just human, normal, day-to-day social interaction. Yeah,
it'll be better when we launch these, and I can point to like more specifics on them, but
okay.
I put it this way, like, Zoom is the way the world works today. It's tempting to think that it should be used in every conceivable way. We can't be everything to everybody. And part of the opportunity is by shifting to a platform, and a real platform, creates more value for the ecosystem than the underlying vendor, in this case, Zoom itself. Right. And so that's what the opportunity is there are people who would, like, I can think of one as an example that is definitively focused on the problem that you're solving, but their segment is more college students, right? Which,
that's fine.
Having kids in college, like right now, they're doing great e-learning, right? They're getting lectured at, and they're, doing their assignments and everything like that. And they have their group study, but there's no, your brain wakes up in a very different way as you're exposed to people that are different than you because you lived with them in the dorms, or, you were attended some other kind of activity, or you just, were walking down the main fair and met a stranger or went to a party. Right. And, that doesn't exist now. It can't safely. Right. So there are people who see these as problems to go off and solve, or delightful experiences to create. And I see people, attacking these problems really aggressively. It's really great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. It blows my mind, really, what you guys do. So what are you doing to incent people to, Zoom's the hottest thing presently.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you have no dearth of people who want to develop on the Zoom platform, but that doesn't last forever. And not only that, even when it becomes mainstream, then you know how it's working. Because one of the things that I know I've been sort of arguing around is, how we've historically worried about, well, we have to be signal in time. We have to have our signal distinguished from the noise. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's not that anymore. It's you're distinguishing signal from signal. Yeah. Right. And that's way harder. And at a certain point, even Zoom, which is probably the hottest property on the planet at the moment, it maybe remain hot, but it'll be just one of others.
Yeah. It's literally, so like I co-founded Social Text 15 years ago today, right? That first wiki company and stuff. Right?
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, thanks. That's amazing. But I was thinking about, like, back then, it was much more, the hard part was, how do I create the product, right? And we were at the time where it's like, oh, now you can do SaaS with web apps, right? And oh, you could do this, and and things you couldn't do because of some shifts, right? But the distribution part wasn't as hard, right? Then, like at this point, because the costs have come down to start a company like crazy, the amount of capital is available to do so. And because the tech giants literally have become so big, squashing lots of opportunities in a lot of ways, distribution is way harder than creating core product. And we've known this for a little while, right? So today, if I focus in providing Zoom apps as a platform on how I effectively enable distribution, as long as the app is of quality, serves a good audience as a niche, right? It has fitness as a meme to be transmitted. Then if we can deliver in terms of distribution, that's the incentive to focus on, right? So we're going to focus on that. We'll open up more in the ways of capabilities that might be about the core product experience and nativity that you could create, right? But just helping solve that problem, and in a way that is fair and a level playing field, that's enough to focus on to get this up at a different scale. And then there will be, new challenges after that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. So when do you launch?
Sometime in the next quarter.
Just you're not sure when, or when and you can't say?
I know when, but also, like, the way I've been explaining this is we've got this 0 to 1 moment, and then after that one happens, then all the timelines will actually be meaningful, ones that I can say right now, and this frustrates the heck out of people that want to plan on things.
It's fair enough.
But it's even, it is the best approach. So
especially after the lessons that have been learned from the overnight rush that happened at the beginning of the pandemic for Zoom. I mean, it was breathtaking to watch from the sidelines how it went from like here to here.
Yeah.
Do you think after all the dust is settled, I mean, what is the new normal going to look like when it comes to using, video? I guess now we have, most people are going to be at home working even after we get through this. So what do you see in the future for Zoom and for work from home and from reaching people in a much richer experience way than before the pandemic and before Zoom took off?
I mean, I see a lot of patterns in things that we've already kind of figured out already, but just haven't had a chance to apply, right? So Like I remember a family friend was a guy who ran Sun Microsystems facility that they built as this showcase. And this was 15 years ago for how the future of work would be when you had the network computer and people telecommuting because the traffic's really bad in the Bay Area. And so they set this thing up where it was you would maybe reserve it, but you basically check in when you came to the office, and you could go to a desk or a meeting room area, and you'd have this network computer ready for you that was loaded with collaboration tools, including voice and video that synced, right? Mm-hmm. But it was like the technology wasn't quite there, and the behavior definitively was not there, right? Now, when I contrast that to seeing like the way some of these Zoom Room devices are ridiculously like sci-fi, where they're sitting here, you have like two screens, a couple video cameras in it, and they're able to sit there and take shots of people around like a conference table and then zoom in to the person's head to place them equally along with the rest of the remote participants in the, Hollywood Squares rectangles that you have for Zoom, right? Which was, again, like what I was saying, of being able to make it so the people who are outside the room are just as important or as the ones who are in it, right? And then I think of, getting better at managing your movement, right? Within spaces, conference room reservations, whether, fulfilling the ability to work from everywhere, right? A richer understanding of presence, I don't know. There will be a lot of things, right?
One last question. So even though there's plenty of room for everybody here, you're basically one way or the other. You're sort of competitive with Microsoft Teams, which is, and one of the things Microsoft Teams does exceptionally poorly is video, but one of the things they do exceptionally well is actually collaboration. I mean, that's why people use it. They use it for the fact you can bring on docs, you can work together. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, collaboration better than I do, but Microsoft Teams is pretty well used by a lot of both enterprise level businesses and smaller ones for that purpose. And people love it for that. Mm-hmm. Then they literally overlook the video quality lack.
Shortcomings.
Shortcoming, good term, right? But because of the collaborative features. Now, Zoom, of course, from the standpoint of the video quality, given especially the scale, is actually pretty remarkable that it can do what it does. And because a webcam's a webcam, a camera's a camera, and it's ultimately how Zoom is interpreting it versus how Microsoft Teams is interpreting it. That I'm using the same one regardless, so to speak. Yeah. Are you looking? Is Zoom looking at it as a native thing in terms of building out those kind of features? Because I'm sure I can't imagine, especially with you there, I literally can't imagine. You're like, the evangelist for that, right? So I can't imagine they're not thinking about it. Are they looking at that as we'll build it ourselves? We'll let these apps folks build it, or both of you can do it? But really, when you say both, it's really we'll build it ourselves. So, and then the apps.
I can't speak to the roadmap on that specifically, right? What I can say is like, look, if you want to run a best of breed shop, right, that has the best tools, Zoom is going to be part of that mix, and it's going to be at the center point of your collaboration strategy, right? Microsoft has its version of collaboration. It's all based on documents, right? It's not. I mean, look, I'm the guy who was trying to compete against Microsoft Word with a wiki before. And I think if there's a difference of what is a collaboration tool where, but, and that I don't want to get too religious on it, right? And I want to be fair to Microsoft. They're nice enough guys. There's good people working there and stuff like that. But like my personal opinion as expressed on my own is like, they're doing it wrong. And I think that there are better choices for customers out there. And I think, you have to I would suggest that if someone's looking at that stuff, just consider what is best of breed that is available in the market now and in the short term, and take a look at what real problems you want to solve for your users, right? As it's not all one vendor, one size fits all.
Right.
And even if, and I'd even say that even if Zoom was providing everything in the universe, right? There's a natural law at stake there. So anyway, I look forward to competing against Microsoft and, anybody else, around that kind of space. I think they're doing, to their credit, they've done an amazing job compared to where they were 10, 15 years ago. It's been a nice reinvention, not just in the collaboration area within the company, but there's been some new up and coming things that, that have succeeded for a reason, that haven't been just the crisis.
Yeah. Oh, amen to that.
Absolutely. We're not even going to bring up. Maybe Paul and I can answer this comment. We're not going to let put that out there for you about why is our opinion of Teams from a video experience not the greatest. We'll talk
It
about
sucks.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I was trying to be gentle because I didn't know if Okay, well, there it is. Hey, look, I was on one today, and Paul, I was going direct message to Paul. I was like, man, this video experience here is just.
It's always like that too, and it's not like we're not changing the We're using for cameras, for God's sake, right? It's not us. There's no doubt. I actually look. A lot of companies do genuinely like Teams, and there's no question about it, and they're very happy with it. And I've talked to a lot of them who are. Look, Microsoft's one of my clients, for God's sake, and and I've mentioned the video quality is primarily problematic, let's just say, and it's just it just simply needs to be fixed.
Yeah, this is not about the collaborative part, which is their meat and potatoes. That's fine. No, it's the video. I mean, I was on one today, and I swear, they only have one person on the screen, and the person that was on the screen wasn't the person talking. It's supposed to go follow. It went through 10 minutes of multiple other people talking, but the one person on the screen was the one that hadn't said a word. I mean, it was just this is not getting it done here. Thomas, that was not the issue, Tom.
No, sorry, Thomas.
All right, man, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and go back in time and then bring it to the future. And this has been fascinating for me.
It's great to see you guys. All right, we'll do it again. Okay.
After you launch, you willing to come back on?
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah. By the way, you got your camera is looking good. Your sound and video quality, perfect.
I'm just sitting outside with a laptop, so next time I'll get a studio.
Hell of a laptop.
All right, take care, guys.
All right. Thanks, Ross. This was great.
That was awesome. Yeah, I know. I was trying to be politically correct with him. He's like, "Oh no, it's."
Look, to answer Thomas there. Yeah. Everything's better than Slack.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. The video stuff.
iPhone 1 is better than Slack. Right. So it's that's like saying, wow. No, that's like saying, well, the video on Microsoft Teams is way better than the video on the Olympus audio recorder.
All right. Yeah, that was all right. Anyway, that was great.
I know. You know what I really liked about what Russ was doing? He was bringing his history into the current. I mean, he kept doing that, the 15 years ago to now kind of thing. It was great because, I don't know how many people who are watching today know what a genuine pioneer this guy is, because he is. He said he was working on his humility. He's always been humble, always. Right
at the benchmark. Hey, I just want to know one thing: is Bob, if you're out there, I hope I hear from you, tomorrow. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to jinx myself too much. I might not want to hear from him if things don't go the way I'm hoping they do, actually.
Well, I'll be rooting on the Rams tonight. Don't worry about that. I'm right there with them.
Maybe it's a good thing we have put on hiatus the sports show, because
you
don't want to talk to me if things don't go the right way.
Well, Brett couldn't be on.
I am still loving Ross's so pure and honest response. Oh, it sucks.
I know. He's right. It's like It's every single time. It's the thing you notice about it is how poor the video quality is, and it's sad because I mean I don't agree with him on it being collaborate. There's too many people who use it exactly the way it's there to use, right?
Right.
But and they do a really good job with that. I always found them, as far as the actual tools that are behind it, to be the best of breed, really. But
Right.
now,
And the integrations that companies have done with it are,
yeah,
I
terrific.
mean, yeah. But
And-
that video part,
No, and it's funny because Zoom doesn't do what the collab. I mean, obviously they're planning on it because he would have said no, we're actually not doing it if it wasn't in his roadmap. But the quality of video Zoom is just night and day better. Even with poorer bandwidth, they've just figured out how to optimize considerably better. Microsoft just needs to put the time and effort. Look, they got plenty of money to take care of the problem.
look,
Right, so they
buy,
just need
buy
to-
a StreamYard. It won't cost that much to buy.
No, probably not. It probably costs them like pocket change to buy.
It won't cost 27.7 billion.
They already own LinkedIn, so
Yeah.
they got the live platform. They own
I
that.
mean, somebody ought to buy this. It would be
Stream.io.
it would be a home run.
Yeah. Well, Amazon hit one with Twitch, and you watch what happens down the road with that. I think
Well, no,
Twitch for business next year.
I've been watching that for a while. That was the best 900 million they spent.
When are they going to open up? Is Twitch for business next year? That's what I heard.
I
don't
think
remember.
so, but they're already starting to open it up, on the consumer side to the broader market. They have that deal with the NFL. I think it's on December 26th. There are either one or two NFL games, and the only place you'll be able to see them is on Amazon Prime or Twitch.
Wow.
That is a sign of things to come, folks. That is a biggie.
That's huge, actually. Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was
thinking when I launched my new show in January, I'm actually going to broadcast it to Twitch. Not because I expect anything. I literally want to see what happens. That's all. I mean, have some 71-year-old, dude on a station. I mean, on a platform that's designed for 20-year-olds. So we'll see. I mean, I'm just going to see what happens because I'm entirely curious as to its potential use. I really am.
Yeah, well, when they start streaming ads underneath your live stream video, that'll be interesting.
We'll see what happens.
What kind of CRM? Or they'll be streaming ads for video equipment.
Yeah. That's right. Or Salesforce. They're probably advertising on Twitch already.
Well, Salesforce. I saw the ServiceNow commercial again and again.
Yeah.
I mean, we're joking, but it's actually going to happen at some point.
I agree. No, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, and you know what? I'm sure you caught it too. Salesforce, Microsoft, broadcast TV commercials for these regular broadcast TV network commercials.
It's amped up significant. Yeah. When I saw ServiceNow, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd already been seeing Salesforce and of course Microsoft.
Right. For years. From
I was like, wow, ServiceNow is getting out there. That's pretty interesting.
Well, they're we can talk about them. We probably should have someone back on the show. Maybe we can get Nick on the show. Nick Sisson again. He was awesome.
Oh yeah,
but they're just on a roll. It's
when you look at some of the companies that we've talked to lately, Salesforce had gangbusters, Adobe gangbusters, Zoom, of course. I mean, what everybody knows what they're doing. If you're in that space where things are moving from non-digital to digital, you're just blowing up. I mean, we've got the good thing is we've got a lot of options for our guests, so we'll bring them on and talk to a few, see what we can come up with. Yes, we will, but we won't do that today. We'll do it in the future,
and we won't do it next week. Well, I guess maybe we will. Depends on when we actually finish the BYOB shows.
Yeah, that's right. You want to plug that one more time before we end up?
Yeah, so everybody, last thing, September 16th and September 17th, 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're doing 2x2 BYOB 2020 shows. 5 bands day one, alphabetical order. You can go look it up, and 5-day bands 5 bands day 2. All 3 videos per band, interviews with the band, teams of moderators. Watch. We're going to put out the event today sometime? Tomorrow? When?
Yeah,
Event notice.
it'll be out later on.
It'll be out shortly. The event notice will be out shortly. Register as soon as you see it.
And sorry, Donnie, we did not.
No,
Didn't get a chance. Sorry.
did not.
He should get into promotions though.
Yeah, he's really pushing it.
Anyway, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and we will be seeing you next week. And now for my favorite part of the show.
Here we go. Oh, God.